The thing most gym owners hate about growing their business is getting on the phone and calling leads. And that's why, if you get good at it, you will be far ahead of the game. And this is an art that I've perfected, and I'm going to teach you today the exact calling scripts to open the conversation when you call leads in any context to help you close more sales. So hang in there and learn the skill that's going to elevate your business faster than ever. So let's start with one thing. We don't really do cold calling in fitness, okay? If you're like my gym, you're getting warm inbound leads from your website, from the local community, and referrals, and maybe paid ads. So there's very little need to do real, true cold calls. But for today, I'm going to use the word cold call to talk about any phone call that's made without being scheduled in advance. So if you're calling a lead that's maybe a little bit colder, they opted in maybe a week ago, or maybe calling gym members and asking for referrals, that's what I'm going to use as the term cold call for today's context. So most people hate doing cold calls. I'm going to teach you the best, most statistically successful opening line that is going to build trust immediately and get more positive outcomes than any other. So before I get into the exact scripts, let me tell you, this is where these conversations should be taking place. What we're talking about today is purely on the phone, and they are leads that are within your world that you're trying to get to either book an appointment or take some sort of action like generate a referral or generate a joint venture for you in the context of calling a member, okay? So there's a few aspects of these, and the approach is going to be different in each one. We are going to talk about 3 different scenarios and the scripts that are statistically proven to be the most successful. And when I say statistically proven, there's a database called Gong, G-O-N-G, that measures millions and millions of cold calls from all different industries and tracks the recordings and tracks the data on what leads to the highest positive outcome, all right? And we're talking like 1% success to 40% success across millions of sales calls. That is the difference that the opening line can have when you do cold outbound calls. So without further ado, let's talk about the scripts that are going to get you more conversations and open more doors to set more appointments and close more sales. So the first type of call that you're generally going to have, this is the easiest one. It's the layup. It's the warm pre-scheduled call. Lead opts in, maybe they get a call booking link as a follow-up. They book themselves. This is a hot prospect. This is somebody that booked themselves for a call, and you're calling them at a pre-scheduled time. Now, what you want to do for this warm, pre-scheduled, hot lead that is interested in joining the gym, it's still important to nail that opening line. And the one word that you want to include is the word decide. And you want to say, hey, Matt, this is Devin from Engage. Thanks for deciding to jump on a call with us. What made you want to reach out? The word decide is a subtle reminder that they decided, okay? Because people can get very easily put into sales reactance mode if they're like, oh, shoot, I'm going to be sold to. They're going to push back on that exposure of their vulnerability. So just using that word, thanks for deciding to schedule a call with us, you're reminding them that they're the one that booked the call, right? I'm not calling you out of the blue. And again, it sounds kind of nitpicky, but I promise you there is a psychological barrier that happens when you don't reinforce that decision, okay? So that's the layup, right? Then you're going to go into, I have other episodes detailing our whole sales conversation process that you'll go into from there, but that's the layup. They booked the call. That is your sale to lose at that point. So now that we got the easy one out of the way, let's dive into a little bit murkier territory. So the next type of call that you're going to make is the call where a lead opted in, but they didn't set up a formal, they didn't book themselves for a call, but maybe they just said, yeah, give me a call later today. Okay. Maybe they just said like, yeah, I'm available later or tomorrow, give me a call then. And so you're calling, it's a little bit less pre-scheduled, but it's not totally cold. What you're going to say is you're going to answer open with a no-based question. And you're going to say, hey, Matt, this is Devin. Is now a terrible time, right? Or is now a bad time to talk? You're going to elicit the response of no. Chris Voss talks about this in his book, Never Split the Difference. When people say no, they feel empowered. They feel like they are in control. And that's exactly what you want the person on the other end of the line to feel, the perception of control. So again, it might sound a little nitpicky or nuanced, but just changing and flipping the way that you ask that opening question is really, really powerful. So instead of saying, is now a good time? And they say yes, they're not going to have that same sense of control. They're actually going to feel a loss of control. So flipping your questioning not only is going to act as a little bit of a pattern interrupt by having the no-based opener, it's also going to let them feel the perception of control. All right. So just a reminder, this is somebody that's like, yeah, give me a call later, or, give me a call tomorrow. And you call them and you say, hey, Matt, this is Devin from Engage. Is now a terrible time? Okay. And I like terrible instead of bad, just because it's harder for them to say yes to terrible than it is bad, because it might not be the best time, right? And they might be like, yeah, it's actually not the best time. Okay. But it's hard for them to say that it's a terrible time. All right. So it's just a very little subtle thing that I call it using large language. When you're like, I'm sure that this is a horrible time to talk. And I'm like, no, it's fine. It's like, whatever. I'm a little busy, but it's fine. All right. That's kind of the answer you're going to get. So don't be afraid to use that large, exaggerated language in that opening. All right. So that's the next type of call that you're going to make. It's a little bit colder, but they did give you permission to call at all. All right. Now let's go anybody that has opted in, but they have not given you permission to call. They have, because they gave you their phone number, but they have not verbally said, yeah, give me a call at this time. They have not booked a call. This is the lead that opts in and they don't respond, right? They don't respond to your initial follow-up. They don't book the call. You still need to call them. And this is where most people resist. This is where most people hate doing these calls. But I'm going to teach you the opening line that is going to get you more openings than ever, okay? And it's very specific, and it should be done this way. Remember, put yourself into their shoes. They're not expecting the call. They don't maybe even remember who you are. They don't remember they opted in, potentially. Knowing all of those factors and knowing that this is an interruption call, this is not pre-scheduled, there's three things that you want to get into your opening line. The first is create context, who you are, why you're reaching out. Number two is you want to lean into the cold aspect of this. This is showing empathy. This is showing an appreciation for their time. And the last thing is you want to give them an out or give them a chance to hang up. Okay. So there's a lot of different little variations of this. Here's the one that I like the best. So if I'm calling somebody and they answer, the first is speed. I want to get this in as fast as possible. You want to get your cold opener in much faster. Okay. Than like a normal, more casual rapport building opening, because it's so cold, you can't leave too much room for them to interject and say, get off the phone. So here's how the call is going to go. Let me break it into the three parts. The first is creating context. Now remember, every word that you utter must earn its spot in the call because time is critical. So you don't want to open with who you are. You want that to come just a little bit later. So you want to say, hey, Matt, I'm calling because you reached out about personal training. All right. Doesn't matter who I am right now. I'm just creating context, and that word because I've talked about in other episodes creates just a reminder that there is a reason for me reaching out. I'm calling because you contacted us. So you say, I'm calling because you reached out about personal training. My name is Devin. I'm with Engage Personal Training. All right. So now you've created the context, then you introduce yourself. Okay. Your name early on doesn't matter. Now it matters. So that's the context. Just to repeat that and how it would sound in one flow. Hey, Matt, I'm calling because you reached out about personal training. My name is Devin. I'm with Engage Personal Training. Okay. That's how it sounds in one shot. Next, you want to lean into the cold aspect. Okay. You want to address the fact that you know that this is inconvenient. You know it's annoying. You know that they probably hate cold calls. So whatever iteration of this that you want to roll with is going to be whatever comes most naturally to you. But I like something along the lines of like, hey, I know this is out of the blue and probably super annoying, but do you happen to have 30 seconds and I can tell you about the gym and see if this is a good fit? Or would you rather just hang up on me? All right. So that's the last two parts of that. I am leaning into the cold aspect. Listen, I'm sure you hate getting calls like this, and I know this is out of the blue, and I know that this is probably super annoying. Okay. I'm addressing empathy, or I'm showing empathy. Like, I know everyone hates these calls. I know it's probably a terrible time. I know I'm interrupting your day, but do you have 30 seconds and I can just tell you about the gym and see if it's a good fit? Or, and that's the leaning into the cold aspect. And the autonomy or the giving them an out is where I say, or would you just rather hang up on me right now? I promise you, and this is not just me making shit up. This is through the millions and millions of calls that have been recorded and analyzed through Gong data. That is the one line that will get you more conversations started than any other, in that exact order. So doing that line, and I'll give you the context. I'm calling because you reached out about personal training. My name is Devin with Engage Personal Training. I know that you probably hate getting these calls because it's so out of the blue, but would you happen to have 30 seconds and I can tell you about the gym? Or would you rather just hang up? If you just nail that and you repeat that hundreds of times and you record yourself saying it and you get that down perfectly, you're going to have so much more success in your fitness outbound sales reach. And I promise you, we've been using it on my team and it works to get more connections from our answers. So you install those 3 call scripts and you'll close more deals.